Imagine walking into a massive candy store or a giant toy store. You look around, you want everything, but you only have enough money to buy one thing. So, this is exactly what happens when you decide to leave a corporate job to start your own business. Here's what happens: your brain suddenly goes wild. One day you want to, work on rental houses. The next day you want to start a coaching business. The following day you want to build an app. And I call this chasing 5,000 squirrels, right? So you're running around looking at every shining object, but at the end of the day, you haven't actually caught a single one. And if you feel stuck because you've got too many ideas and you don't know which one to pick, today we're going to fix that. I'm going to give you three simple steps that I use, that I, work with my clients and kind of walk them through in order to help narrow that down from 5,000 squirrels to their favorite one. So the first thing that I want to do is talk a little bit like why does your brain do this, right? So the first thing that I want to encourage you in is don't beat yourself up, right? Like don't start having a panic attack because there's so many different ideas, and honestly having a lot of ideas, it's a superpower, right? That means you're leaning into creativity. You've got this creativity, you've got these smarts around you, and Dr. Benjamin Hardy actually calls it opportunity confusion, and that's when you have too many skills. And when you take a moment and you really think about it, when you were in that corporate job, when you're working in a company, you're trained to look at the big picture, right? Never are we looking at things really in a microcosm, so to speak. We're looking at the big picture. You're used to dealing with huge systems, lots of different people, different departments, these big corporate goals. And when you're trying to build your business from scratch, trying to look at everything at once kind of makes your head start to spin, right? And then if you find yourself trying to build five businesses at the same time, you're actually going to end up building zero businesses. And you need to learn how to put the horse blinders on, so to speak, so you can focus on just one path. So, going to talk a little bit about how to actually do that. And so the first thing that I always work with people is to look for problems, not industries. And most people, they want to start by picking out an industry. They'll say things like, I want to get into AI, or I want to be in technology. I want to get into finance, or maybe I want to do, design work, or, a vintage good business, so to speak. So that's way too big. Right? You're thinking so broad, and it's going to be really, really hard to think about putting a business in such a broad topic. And so instead, what I encourage people to do is change the question, right? Like, I love it when people ask questions, but just tweak that question a little bit. So instead of asking yourself, what kind of business do I want to start? Ask yourself, what is broken that I know how to fix, right? Like, so much of business is problem, see a problem, solve a problem. So what is broken that I know I want to fix? So think of it like a superhero, right? Superheroes, they don't just walk around saying like, hey, I want to be in the safety industry. They look for somebody who needs saving. They go out, they help them. And that is the same way that you need to be thinking about yourself, your business, and how you want to lean into your skills. And for me, when I first left corporate, um, some of you guys may know, right? I wasn't always corporate escapee. I used to be Cornerstone Coaching and Consulting. And within that, I saw a problem around employee satisfaction, right? We had employee satisfaction was being heavily impacted by leadership. And we had employees who were saying that their leaders didn't know how to connect with them. They didn't feel like their leaders were supporting them. They didn't trust their leaders to grow their career, but so much of the employee dissatisfaction rather was around, their leadership. So I saw that as a huge problem and wanted to come in and help these new leaders develop, have the skills that they would need so that individuals would want to be on their team instead of being nervous to work with them, right? So saw a problem, created a solution to fix it. And for you, when you're thinking about your list of, 5,000 ideas, which one of these ideas actually fixes a real painful problem for a real person, right? So for me, that real painful problem was employee retention. Employees weren't staying on the teams, employees weren't putting on their best work. And when people left, it was really, really hard for leaders, especially the new leaders who might not have had a really good solid brand in an organization, attract top talent. So that was the real problem that I saw, and it was real people that I was getting to help. So which of these ideas actually fixes a real painful problem for a real person? And if an idea doesn't fix a clear problem, cross it off the list right now, right? So that's your first step. The second thing that I want you to do, I call it the 5-year sleep test. Doesn't necessarily have to be 5 years. That's kind of like my go-to whenever I'm thinking about things. And I told a client the other day, like I use 5 years because that's what I do whenever I'm looking at a house, right? Like, would I want to live here for 5 years? And if the answer is yes, it'll stay on the, stay on the list. If no, it automatically gets tossed off. So you've got the smaller list, right? We started with our 5,000 ideas. We've narrowed it down by crossing off anything that didn't fix the real problem. Now I want you to think about and ask yourself, what, is this a problem I would happily lose sleep over for 5 years trying to figure it out, like working on it, refining it, making it better, serving that person better, coming up with new creative solutions for the problem, staying cutting edge, researching everything I can about this topic. Do I want to do this for 5 years? Because honestly, building a business takes time, right? It's not a magic trick. It doesn't happen overnight. So you tend to be working on it for a couple of years. So if you're looking at an idea and the thought of, working with this type of person, solving this problem, learning about, all of the possible solutions and how best to help the people with that problem, makes you feel tired, makes you feel bored, maybe even makes you cringe a little bit, cross it off the list, right? Like you're not going to enjoy it. It's not going to lean into your passions. It's not going to be something that you're going to be able to bring your best self to every single day, right? And so sometimes we'll see these ideas and it's like, oh, that's, quick money. I'm seeing a lot of other people making success with it, but if you don't feel excited about it, it's going to be really, really difficult for you because you're not going to be able to put the energy into it that getting a business off the ground successfully requires. So we have taken off anything that doesn't solve a real problem for a real person. We've now taken off anything that makes us feel tired or bored, cringe even if we have to deal with it for 5 years. And then the third thing that I tell people is put this into a sentence. So you guys have probably heard me talk about like the I help statements and what that looks like. And so when you're thinking about it in terms of narrowing down what it is that you want to focus on, you've got your favorite problem to fix, and you really need to take the time and think about, how do I make it super simple that even a 10-year-old right can understand it. I've talked before about when EJ, my 16-year-old son, was younger, I would like say stuff in front of him, like practice pitches, for for sales in front of him. And if he could kind of follow along, I knew I was on the right track. If he was super confused, I was like, okay, too much techno jargon, bring it back down. So is it something that the average person can understand, or a young child even? And the way that I look at it, it's a little, fill in the blank kind of sentence. And I'll go ahead and give you the formula, and you may end up tweaking it a little bit, but it's going to be, I help blank, achieve blank by blank. And so that first blank, it's who, right? So I help who. So this can be, so when I did Cornerstone coaching and I had left my corporate role, my who was emerging leaders, right? I help emerging leaders. And then your achieve, and then it's going to be what result, like what is it that you want that person to achieve when they're done working with you? So in that instance, it was be able to attract top talent. I could even say increase their leadership skills, right? So different things that you may want somebody to achieve, but really narrow that down. And then that last blank is how you do it. How is it that you're helping them get those results? So back in the day, for me, it was, I help emerging leaders attract top talent by increasing their leadership skills and their empathy, right? And so now with corporate escapee, it's, I help corporate escapees build out their exit plan by using the escape system. So think about it like that, right? So, and practice saying it. And there may be a couple of different variations. And instead of the word achieve, there may be a different word that you use there. And if we think about like even a practice one, so instead of saying something like, I run a corporate consulting and operational strategy agency, right? Kind of sounds like robot language. People might scratch their head when they hear something like that. Instead, you could say something along the lines like, I help stressed out managers get 5 hours of their week back by organizing their messy team schedule, right? Boom, clear, simple. Everyone knows exactly what it is that you do. And when you say something like that, the people that you wanted to help, they'll be like, yes, that is me. Like, I would love to get 5 hours of my week back. My schedule is a hot mess. Please help me. And they can easily raise their hand and understand that you are the person that they have been looking for their whole life, right? So, and when you're doing this, you may go through a couple of iterations. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you're looking at it and you can't write that sentence, that business idea in one sentence, it means it's still too complicated. Keep scrubbing it down until it's simple. Y'all have heard me talk about the fact that I love to take a good dry erase marker to a mirror or a dry erase board and just like write my ideas down. So, you may end up with 10 or so iterations on there, but keep working on it till you can have it in a nice, simple sentence. So those three things were the first one being all about look for problems, not industries, really narrow that down. The 5-year sleep test, which one of those ideas would you be willing to lose sleep over thinking about solutions and ways to help your person? And then the last thing, how do you put all of that into a golden sentence? So remember, like, you don't need to have all of the answers figured out today. Totally okay to learn as you go. Even the biggest companies in the world started with just one simple product. So your homework for today, I would love it, love if you would take a piece of paper, write down your golden sentence. Maybe it's a piece of paper, maybe it's a mirror or whiteboard, but write down that golden sentence for yourself. Put it somewhere where you can see it every single day, right? Hold on to that. Keep that as your North Star. Stop chasing these squirrels and go and focus on your one big problem and go fix it. And of course, if you guys liked this video, hit the like button, subscribe, drop your golden sentence in the comments. I would love to read them and see what you guys came up with, and I will see you next time.